fix it. Back when I was in elementary school, if the weather wasn't good, instead of going outside to the playground, they'd sit us down in the auditorium and make us watch a movie. It's where I saw a lot of movies when I was a kid, like Flight of the Navigator and MVP, Most Valuable Primate. But one movie in particular we watched multiple times and stuck in my memory. Inspector Gadget 2, which was released in 2003. Yes?
What was that you said about Internet Reviewer Law 28.6, Section 3, Subsection 5?
Oh, I see what you're doing.
Yes, so do I. Which is why I'm doing it.
Okay, so for those who don't know, that Internet Reviewer Law states that if you do a video involving a subject matter that falls within the purview of another reviewer, and you have not previously done a crossover with said reviewer, then you must do a crossover in the aforementioned video. So I guess this is a crossover now.
Yes, I've been wanting to review Inspector Gadget 2 ever since the Blockbuster Buster did his review of Inspector Gadget, pretty much saying that movie would have been great if it was exactly like the cartoon, not realizing there was still the bad writing in the way. That's where Inspector Gadget 2 comes in, and that movie was a part of my childhood. Although the internet doesn't say the film had a theatrical release, it did here in Australia, I think. I remember all the movie posters on bus stops and the Macca's toys. In fact, I think I have a toy of Dr. Claw's claw somewhere around here. So yes, the internet isn't all-knowing.
Well, the internet is partly true. It was direct-to-video in America, though I think we had the McDonald's toys too. Anyway, I saw the movie a lot as a kid, since you can imagine that my school didn't have that many DVDs to show us. And I remember really liking the movie when I was a kid. But then again, I also really liked the first movie, so... Anyway, does Inspector Gadget 2 hold up, or is it just as bad as the first one? Let's find out. Go Gadget Review.
Please don't tell me you just said that.
I know, that was terrible. Let's get to the summary.
Inspector Gadget. Inspector Gadget.
On the off chance that you've never heard of Inspector Gadget before, let me give you a bit of a primer. Inspector Gadget was a cartoon show that premiered in 1983 and was about a bumbling cyborg detective. Basically a cyborg version of Maxwell Smart from Get Smart. Fitting, as his voice actor was none other than the legendary Don Adams, who also originated the role of Maxwell Smart.
Though Gadget was almost played by the legendary late Gary Owens, who did play him in the pilot.
The show had a pretty basic plot, being Inspector Gadget bumbling through a mission and foiling the evil Dr. Claw with the help of his niece Penny and her dog Brain. And since Hollywood effectively ran out of ideas in the 90s, they made a film adaptation of it.
I think it was a cash-in on the Mask movie that was released a few years earlier. Kind of like the My Favorite Martian movie.
However, the first movie has little to no bearing on Inspector Gadget 2, since it acts as a standalone film or remake, which means we don't have to talk about the first movie in great detail. Thank heavens for small mercies.
Though it did keep a few things from the first movie. Minor things like the town's name. It's Riverton in the movies, but it's Metro City in the cartoon. Or his brown outfit, which was grey in the cartoon, which originally made him look less like an Inspector Clouseau ripoff. Or how Inspector Gadget is an inspector in the movies, taking the name way too literally. While in the cartoon, he was a secret agent, working for a secret government organization called HQ, there were a few annoying things kept in that we'll get to later.
The movie opens up with Inspector Gadget, now played by Third Rock from the Sun star Frank Stewart, sitting around and waiting for the flimsiest justification to strike down on supposed criminals. Since, after locking up Dr. Claw, all major crime has ceased, and the inspector is stuck monitoring the speed limit at the outskirts of the city.
But all the criminals from back then were likely and technically stopped by Penny. Inspector Gadget never manages to stop any criminals purposely. Penny always saves the day, and Inspector Gadget never knew while taking all the credit. Or sometimes his clumsiness plays a part in catching criminals.
He arrests an old lady going 3 miles over the speed limit and driving without a license, since she left it at home, right before we go into a horrendous CGI title sequence.
Was a pretty catchy title sequence song, though it would have been nice to hear a remix of the original theme first.
Gadget goes to the police station and runs into his niece Penny, who is cutting school because she wants to solve cases with him. Why she'd go to a police station while cutting school is beyond me, since that's the one place that she'd definitely get picked up for truancy, but whatever. Then Gadget goes and gets himself checked out by Baxter, who is a scientist who keeps his gadgets running, and a Bill Nye the Science Guy cosplayer.
Again, another movie change. Inspector Gadget from the original cartoon got his gadgets from Professor von Slickstein.
It seems that Gadget has been having issues where his gadgets are glitching up when he uses them, such as a bubble wand and egg beater showing up when he asks for a radar gun. Baxter tells him that they're going to be unveiling something soon to fix all the glitches for good, and Gadget thanks him. I just hope they don't upgrade him to Windows 10.
Or, God forbid, Windows Vista.
Arresting that old lady lands Inspector Gadget in hot water, since the old lady he arrested was the police chief's mother. We also learn that he had arrested Girl Scouts the week before for selling expired cookies. But the chief's mother isn't doing all that bad. In fact, she took over the cell and beat up some of the criminals. Oh, and later that day, Dr. Claw escapes from prison.
Of course he did. He's a Saturday morning cartoon villain. They never stay in prison for less than a minute.
Gadget goes to investigate, and Dr. Claw meets up with his minions at an abandoned bowling shoe factory, and this is a part where the movie actually ends up fitting better with the cartoon, as we never see Claw's face during the movie.
However, his claw is still more like a cyborg lobster pincer, and not the badass metal hand he had in the cartoon.
Claw explains his plans to his minions, in which they're going to rob the Federal Reserve, which is impregnable. Claw tells his minions that they have to steal certain items and put them together before a specific satellite passes over Riverton. They need ion fuel cells, a protoid laser, and a ruby, all of which are conveniently being stored or held in Riverton.
Well, it is the safest place in America. Fort Knox keeps getting broken into by Goldfinger.
The mayor, Chief Quimby, and Baxter hold a press conference to unveil the thing that's going to fix all of Gadget's glitches. G2, the new Inspector Gadget, who is fully cyborg, and a woman, who Inspector Gadget immediately falls head over heels for.
Don't date robots!
They test out G2, using Gadget as their test dummy as revenge for his bumbling, and they take Gadget off the Claw case, since G2 is a lot more competent. Penny tells him that she found a clue and shows him a classifieds ad that was presumably written by Claw, asking for potential minions to meet with him.
Whether he wants Hagestanian minions or Cruise minions is entirely up to him.
Penny reveals that the number on the ad leads to a bar where seedy characters hang out, and Gadget decides that he'll go check out the bar to get a jump on G2. And Penny says she wants to come with, but Gadget tells her no, because if she went with him, the movie would be over in 5 minutes.
More like 2 minutes.
He goes to the bar after some slapstick involving his glitches, and dresses like
Dr. Dawson's disguise in The Great Mouse Detective. In fact, I think the entire scene is way too similar to their bar scene, without the stripping lady mouse dancer.
Gadget starts a barroom brawl while Penny and Brain spy on Claw's minions in the back room. They almost get spotted, but Gadget's brawl makes a monkey dressed like Elvis call 911, and the bad guys hightail it out of there. G2 shows up to apprehend the bad guys, and G2 tells him, in no uncertain terms, that it's her investigation now, and... oh yeah, we haven't talked about the car yet.
Later.
Anyway, more slapstick happens, and Gadget confronts Penny, telling her not to sneak out, despite the fact that she got more done than he did.
In the entire show altogether.
The Chief tells Gadget to stay 100 yards away from their stakeout of the facility with the ion fuel cells, and Gadget, of course, takes it literally, measuring out 100 yards and parking there. Claw's goons sneak in, and Gadget messes the whole operation up when he interferes with G2, and Claw's minions get away with the fuel cells. The Chief is none too pleased, and so he gives Gadget latrine duty, which he still manages to screw up.
It's Gadget. I'm surprised he didn't fall into pieces getting out of bed.
Claw is quite happy at Gadget's misfortune and sets up the next part of his plan, acquiring the Protoid laser, setting his new goons on the case, which include a ninja, a skinhead, and an Australian stereotype.
Why do you guys think we're tough outback bushmen? There's a reason why most of us live along the edge of Australia. To get away from the scary stuff in the middle. Small number of the scary stuff can still come here. But still...
Claw sends Gadget an anonymous note to ensure that he is at the science convention with the laser because Claw plans on using a remote access chip on Gadget to make his already glitchy program even worse and cause a distraction at the convention so they can get to the laser. Gadget eats some product placement and Claw messes with him, making him spill it all over the floor. Gadget goes nuts as Claw controls his movements and disrupts the convention, allowing Claw's goons to get away with the laser, but Brain manages to steal a bowling shoe from one of them, so at least Penny made some headway. As for Gadget, he gets fired from the department and is forced to turn in his badge, and he forbids Penny to have anything to do with the investigation. But she gets back into it when Brain inspires her. This leads to a montage of Penny investigating, Claw doing evil, and Gadget doing a bunch of jobs that he is, of course, terrible at. After the montage, Claw sets his sights on the final piece of the plan, a giant ruby on loan to the Riverton Museum. Personally, I'd have gone for a giant emerald, but only because I like Rayquaza better. The mayor, the chief, and G2 go to a gala being held at the museum, and the doorman just happens to be Gadget, since opening doors seems to be the only thing he's not entirely bad at. Claw's goons infiltrate the gala as musicians, while Penny and Brain start to infiltrate Claw's secret base.
The penny and the brain, the penny and the brain. One is a genius, the other's a dog who's also really smart.
Anyway, Claw reveals himself and incapacitates everyone at the museum with Joker gas. Well, it's just regular laughing gas, but it's definitely something that you'd expect more from the Joker and not from Dr. Claw. Also, he makes stupid laugh gas-related puns.
You should hear the kind of puns another villain is using in the fancy party next door.
I'll be sneaking those jewels and Venom gotta go. Sorry I didn't ask your permission. Hope that's Cobra-cetic.
Hey, jerk, puns are lazy writing. Go!
G2 is unaffected by the gas, but Claw has prepared for that and uses a giant magnet to keep G2 busy so he can escape with the ruby. Claw and his goons escape, with Gadget opening his car door, not realizing who Claw and his goons are, despite the fact that he's met them before, and Claw just kind of obscures his face, which is sort of his thing anyway. Gadget's an idiot.
That's sort of his thing.
Though he does make a good point about tip-based workers when Claw stiffs him on the tip.
You Americans and your tips.
Anyway, Penny and Brain discover Claw's plan, but right when Claw and his goons return to the lair, and Penny is captured, but Brain escapes. The mayor is livid after the gas wears off and decides to scrap the entire Gadget program and reinvest in human police officers. Despite the fact that a human cop wouldn't have been able to save the ruby because laughing gas. And the chief takes G2 back to the precinct to be deactivated, and she sheds a single tear of sadness. She tells Gadget that there's nothing he can do to help, but he takes that as a challenge and goes to the precinct to bring G2 back online. Together, the Gadgets formulate a plan to take down Claw, with the help of Brain and an animal translation collar Baxter was testing out at the beginning of the movie.
What is with these films trying to get Brain to talk? It's not like a little nod to the cartoon because Brain didn't talk in the cartoon.
No idea, but at least in the first movie, it was a neat little cameo for Don Adams. In this one, they got Jeff Bennett, aka the guy who voiced Johnny Bravo in Dr. Hamsterville from Lilo and Stitch.
You say neat, I say pathetic. They reduced both Don Adams and Frank Welker, the leading actors in the show, to just playing the animal sidekicks for a few minutes, or even less, while the actors playing their signature characters do a crappy job at it, to the point where it seems like they aren't even playing the characters.
Regardless, Brain can talk now. He tells Gadget that Penny was kidnapped and that Claw's at the bowling shoe factory, something that Penny had tried to convince Gadget of earlier in the movie, and he realizes that she was right and he was wrong. So Gadget suits up and he and G2 go out to save the day. Claw takes Penny out to watch him shoot the laser at the satellite, and good on Claw for not letting her out of his sight, a mistake many villains make.
Just wait, he'll screw up soon.
A time-freezing ray hits the town, but Gadget and G2 manage to escape in the Gadget-mobile, as the laser is confined to hitting only Riverton. Claw and his minions go for the gold, literally, and Gadget and G2 confront them after they open up the safe at the Federal Reserve. Claw threatens Penny and sixes goons on Gadget and G2, and G2 agrees to take on the goons so Gadget can get Penny, but the glitchers rear their ugly head again. G2 offers up her chip so that Gadget can catch Claw, and they swap chips, letting Gadget use his tools right for the first time in the entire movie. Gadget flies after Claw, and G2 manages to take down the goons despite the glitches. There's a chase scene as Gadget tries to catch Claw, and G2 and the Gadget-mobile try to catch up with Gadget. Gadget gets into Claw's van, and he released Penny, on a go-kart with a bomb strapped to it, making Gadget leave Claw so he can save her. He unchains her from the go-kart, and they do a slow-mo explosion run as G2 and the Gadget-mobile pull up, where they and Claw think that Gadget perished. But, of course, they survived. The team goes after Claw and stops the van in a pile of bubblegum, but Claw escapes in a rocket that, frankly, should not be able to fit inside that truck. Claw says his trademark catchphrase,
But I'll get you next time, Gadget!
And flies away.
Which he honestly didn't do that well. Only Frank Welker has the pipes to say it.
They cut to a press conference where the mayor congratulates Gadget and G2 on stopping Claw, and Gadget gets his job back and he and G2 kiss, literally setting off fireworks that hit the chief and the mayor, and the movie ends.
Inspector Gadget. Inspector Gadget.
Well, I think that Frank Stewart was perfect for the role of Gadget. Matthew Broderick was all wrong for the part, but Frank Stewart's naturally slapsticky style, Don Adams-like voice, and comedic timing was a godsend in this movie. After seeing him in Third Rock from the Sun, I knew that Gadget was the role he was born to play.
Exactly. Broderick just played the part all wrong. He played Gadget as a self-conscious, soft-spoken wimp. That's not Gadget. Gadget is completely and utterly proud of himself, thinking he has no weaknesses at all and doesn't even realize he's an idiot. Stewart plays the role perfectly with a big smile on his face and a proud, loud voice. And Penny has a much bigger role in this movie than the first one. In the first one, she only found one clue which anyone could have found. Whereas in this movie, she does most of the work without wanting any credit, just like Penny in the cartoon.
Yeah, Penny was definitely used more in this movie than in the first. Plus, she actually calls him Uncle Gadget instead of Uncle John.
And then we have Dr. Claw. Not Claw this time. Sure, he still isn't as menacing as the cartoon version, but it's certainly an improvement over Rupert Everett's Madonna Claw. For one thing, we actually don't see his face.
Chief Quimby was a lot better in this movie. I know that he's still not entirely identical to the cartoon, but he still feels more like Chief Quimby from the cartoon than the original one did.
Overall, you get the idea that the filmmakers actually paid their attention to the cartoon this time. They really tried to make it like the cartoon and a cartoon on their second try.
Definitely. It's even evident with the soundtrack, which gives the movie a closer feel to the show, along with the story, which feels more like a Saturday morning cartoon plot than the first movie.
And Riverton has been portrayed a lot less realistically than the first movie. Seriously, why the hell were they trying to make a realistic Inspector Gadget movie?
No idea, but otherwise the movie is a vast improvement over the first film. That doesn't mean it was perfect, though.
Inspector Gadget. Inspector Gadget.
The car. They kept the car. That stupid car. Why did they keep the car?
I think to start, we should address that they kept the one thing from the first movie that neither of us could stand. The Gadget-mobile. I have nothing against D.L. Hewley, who voiced the car, but why did the car need to talk in this one? He almost never interacts with Gadget, and he's only there to make stupid car jokes and puns.
And talk with that stupid voice on and on. Why did they keep the car?
Also, the love story angle is kind of cliche. I mean, I have nothing against doing love stories in movies, but
was G2 really necessary? I mean, sure, she helped fight off the goons to the reserve and was the reason why Gadget kept getting demoted, other than his general idiocy. But all the advertising made her such a big deal, yet she could have been easily written out. Plus, the chemistry isn't all that good. Love stories between a robot and a different character, or even two robots, have been done before, but we don't see any growth between them, like with those stories, so we don't believe the relationship could be possible.
yeah, I'm all for putting more female characters, but she doesn't have all that much to do, and basically just repeats the same lines over and over until the part where Gadget reactivates her.
Not to mention the structure of the movie makes a lot of parts repeat themselves. You tend to find a pattern very quickly. Goons go after MacGuffin. Gadget tries to stop them. Gadget fails. And then there's the glitch thing. Really? We're blaming most of Gadget's incompetence on glitches and then suddenly make him super duper awesome when he gets fixed? Couldn't we leave that out and make the moral Darkwing Duck's advice?
Remember, turn a weakness into a strength.
Hell, that's what G2 did at the reserve. To me, the glitch subplot is just saying, oh, you're absolutely hopeless at something. Rather than let that weakness make you you, let's fix it up in a jiffy and then you're perfect. I mean, sure, it's not as bad as the first movie where the power of love brings Gadget back to life, but it's just as unnecessary as G2.
Yeah, other than that, I don't think I have any other major issues with the movie.
Actually, there are at least two more. The writing and the effects. The dialogue in this movie is pretty much as weak as the first movie. Sure, it's based on Inspector Gadget, I'm not expecting Shakespeare, But the reason why Saturday morning cartoons are remembered so fondly is because they do have moments of cleverness. The dialogue in this film feels stale and purely focused on different characters' goofiness, like the goons. You just heard it all before. And the effects. If there's one thing that the first movie got right, it's the effects. The effects in the first movie were mainly amazing animatronics done by the Stan Winston studio. Whereas this movie's effects definitely expose how low its budget is in comparison. Mainly bad CGI.
I'll admit that the writing, which I feel was a slight improvement over the original, wasn't as strong as the writing in the cartoon, and the CGI is really bad. I always prefer practical effects to CGI, and that is a weak point with the movie. Other than those, I think it's time we talk about how we fixed the movie.
Inspector Gadget. Inspector Gadget.
Starting off, fix the story. Give an actual reason to have G2 around, like wanting to give Gadget a partner and she ends up being better than him and he gets jealous and starts a rivalry.
Or get rid of her completely. And if they want to make the movie more like the cartoon, make it a secret agent movie. I don't get why they keep making Gadget part of the police force. But they could have improved the story by having him be a secret agent and making Dr. Claw head of MAD. To make the story bigger, you know? Have a lot more at stake. And get better dialogue writers, if that's a thing.
And obviously have the effects be more realistic. But that's more of a budget thing, I guess. So, give it a better budget. Also, get rid of the car! If there was one thing from the first movie that should have gone, it should have been the car. I could have lived with Principal Prickly as Chief Quimby and Rupert Everett Claw if they had gotten rid of the car.
Just a minor thing about Dr. Claw, but get an actor who actually has a deep voice. Hell, get Frank Welker. We never see Dr. Claw's face anyway, so it'll be like voice acting to him. Also, get rid of that glitch subplot. It's just a route to a Deus Ex Machina.
Agreed, the glitch subplot contributes almost nothing to the movie, and they could have spent that time on developing other stuff, like giving G2 more development, or even letting Penny have an even bigger part, and have her even be more of a main player.
Although, they got to make sure she still follows her role of being the actual brains behind Gadget without Gadget knowing.
Plus, we needed more of the original Inspector Gadget theme song in the movie. That was the one thing the first film got right.
Yeah, at the end credits.
Which this movie replaced with a generic pop song. In the credits, I mean.
Yeah, the title sequence song reminds me more of the new theme song.
Other than that, I think we're done.
Unless you want to join me and review the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie.
We are definitely done here. And that was Inspector Gadget 2. Was it really as bad as the reputation it has? Not really. It's not perfect, but it's miles ahead of the first one. Could it have been done better? Yeah, but the movie is enjoyable enough, and it's definitely something that I liked as a kid that I don't regret liking, and to some extent still enjoy a little bit. Anything to add?
The level of quality writing is just as low as the first film, and the production value is even lower. But it definitely succeeds in honoring the source material more than the first film. All I can say is that it had potential.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more of how to fix it, you can hit that subscribe button.
And if you'd like to see my show, you can check it out by clicking the link below. Now can we please do that movie review and tear it apart?
What movie? They never made a Hitchhiker's Guide movie. I have no idea what you're talking about. Whoops, it looks like the signal is breaking up. See you later. Anyway, if you have any comments or complaints about the video, you can put those in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, show it to your friends and share it around the internet. And maybe consider supporting the show on Patreon. See you next time.